Welcome, weary wanderers, to the Sleepy Scotsman, a sanctuary of tranquility tucked away in the nooks and crannies of Scotland's enchanting landscapes. Today, we invite you on a remarkable journey through the realms of Scottish folklore. As twilight casts its ethereal glow upon our storytelling stage, we unveil a hidden gem from Scotland's treasure trove of tales. Get ready to embark on an unforgettable adventure as we set sail with the ship that sailed to America. The ship that went to America. This ship sailed to America with a great number of people who were going to reside in that country. It happened to them that they came near land at a part of the coast where there were many rocks and skerries, and all were lost, except one man and his wife. These two got ashore on a broken piece of the ship, and they erected a tent above the shore. Sails and ropes belonging to the ship were going ashore, and they formed the tent of them. Some of the provisions that were in the ship were going ashore in hogsheads, such as biscuits and meat. Some books that were on board went also ashore. After they were there for some time, what went ashore was spent, and they were in want. It occurred to the man one day that he would go out through the country to try if he could see houses and men or anything that would please him. And he asked his wife not to be anxious. He set off and went on, and passed through much wood. He took a bit of the bark off the trees as he went on. At last he got through the wood. He did not see any person or the appearance of any house. He saw a mountain at a considerable distance from him, and resolved to go to the top of it, because he would get a better view of the country. He reached the top of the mountain before he halted, and he was tired and hungry. A good part of the day was past by this time. He saw no appearance of anyone or of a house as far as his eye could reach. He became so anxious that he said that he wished that he had not left his own little tent, and he was much afraid that he could not return on account of want of food. As he was looking down the other side of the mountain, he thought that he saw the appearance of a little hut at the foot of the mountain, and he said to himself, "I will go down and see what kind of house it is." He went down, reached the hut, and entered a room in which there was a table covered with a large white tablecloth, and a bottle of wine and a loaf of wheaten bread were upon it. "Well," he said to himself, "I am hungry and know not what to do. If I touch this, perhaps I shall be to blame. I will, at any rate, venture to take a part of it." He took a hold of the bottle and took a mouthful or two out of it, and he took a bit out of the loaf and ate it. An old grey man then came in and said to him, "What is your news, stranger? What in the world has driven you in this direction?" He told the old man every misfortune that he passed through, and said to him, "I don't know, but I have acted rudely by touching this, but I was hungry." "Not at all, not at all," said the old man. "Tak enough of it. It is there for such as you. Are you married? I am, said the other. Have ye a family? Said the old man. We have not, said the other. We never had any children. The old man said, The day is now past, and you have no time to return home tonight. Remain with me, and you will get food and bed from me. He spent that night with the old man. They both rose in the morning, and the old man made breakfast for the other. He put a bottle of wine and a loaf of wheaten bread on the table, and said, Now mak ye a good breakfast. You have a long distance to travel, and your wife is in great anxiety about you. When he was going away, the old man spoke to him thus. What'll you give me for the tablecloth? Every time that you spread it on your table, you'll get a bottle of wine and a loaf of wheaten bread, and one or two other kinds of food besides. Really, said the old man, I have nothing to give you for it. Well, said the old man, if you give me the first man or beast that will be born on your possession, you shall get the tablecloth. The other, thinking that he would not have any children or beasts, said to the old man he would give him what he asked. The old man said to him, Whatever it be, come here with it 7 years from today. He then went away and bade the old man goodbye and returned home to his tent, and his wife was exceedingly pleased, for she did not expect ever to see him again. He took the tablecloth from under his arm and spread it, and a bottle of wine and a loaf of wheaten bread were on the table, with many other kinds of food. Ah, said his wife, where have you found this? He said, Fortune has bestowed it on me. We shall not be in any want any more while we live. Thus day after day passed, till at last his wife had a young son, whom he named John. When he grew up to be a boy of about 4 or 5 years, his father began to give him schooling. Time passed till it came to the 7 years, and the man said to his wife, I am going away today, and going to take the boy with me, because it is he that I promised for the tablecloth. She began to weep and wail, and to reflect on him for doing such a thing. It cannot be helped, said he. I must do it. I must go away today. His mother then rose and kissed the boy, and let him away with his father. They arrived, step by step, at the little hut at the foot of the mountain where the old grey man was, and he went into the same room that he was before, and a bottle of wine and a loaf of wheaten bread were on the table. It occurred to him that he would take a drop out of the bottle and a bit out of the loaf, and he and the boy took a little out of them. Who came in but the old grey man? And he said to him, You've come as you promised. Oh, yes, said the other. Well, said the old grey man, it behoved you to come today, for if you had not, I would go for you tomorrow. I see that you have a boy with you this time, which was not the case before. What is his baptismal name? John, said the boy's father. May he enjoy his name, it's a good one, said the old man. Has he any education? He has a little. I have been teaching him myself, said the boy's father. The old man said, I will give him good schooling and instruction, and act towards him as if he were my own son. Perhaps I shall make a fortunate man of him yet. The boy's father remained with them that night at the foot of the mountain. After they had breakfast on the morrow, his father bade the boy goodbye and returned home. When he arrived, his wife was sad and grieved after the boy. He was keeping up her spirits as he best could in the hope that they would yet have another son. We will leave them in their comfort and return to the old man at the foot of the mountain. The boy grew up a big and handsome lad, and the old grey man gave him enough of schooling and instruction. He was more than 20 years with the old grey man, and the old grey man said to him, You and I are to go today to the top of the mountain up here. Look above the door, and you will find there a horse's bridle. Bring it with you. Having reached the top of the mountain, the old grey man said to John, Shake the bridle towards me, and I shall turn into a horse, and you shall leap on my back. John did as he was bid, and the old grey man turned into a horse. John leaped on his back, and the horse set off with him, and went at a terrible pace. Soft or hard ground was alike to him. They went on for the greater part of the day, and came to a big inn at the seaside, and the old grey man said to John, Come off my back, John. John came off his back, and the old man said to him, Go to the cave up there, and ye shall find 3 giants lying down in it, and dying of hunger. And look into my ear to see what you will find in it. He looked, and found a bottle of wine and 3 loaves of wheaten bread. The old man said to him, Give them a loaf each, and divide the bottle among them. And when they partake of that, say to them that you hope they will remember it to you yet. He went to the giants, and gave them the wine and loaves. When they partook of them, the chief giant said, We are now exceedingly well off. If so, said John, I hope that you will remember it to me yet. Perhaps we will, said the chief giant. He went down where the old man was, and the old man said to him, Have you done as I bade you? Yes, yes, said John. Leap on my back, John, said the old man. They then set off and reached the seaside, where there was a great beach. Come off my back, John, said the old man. Go down to the beach. There is a big fish there. Put it out on the sea and say to it that you hope that it will remember it to you yet. He went down to the beach and found the fish there, and he put it out on the sea and said to it, I hope that you will remember it to me yet. Perhaps I will, said the fish. He then returned to the old man, who said to him, Have you done as I bade you, John? John said that he had, and the old man said to him, Leap on my back, John. They set off and came to a large brazen castle, and the old man said, "Come off my back, John. Go up to that castle and enter it, and you shall see rooms full of gold and silver, and by all that you have ever seen, let not your hand touch any of it." John then entered the castle and saw all the rooms of gold and silver that were in it. And when he was coming out, he looked sideways and saw a large bundle of goose feathers, and it occurred to him that one of them would suit well to make a pen, and he took one of them away with him. He did not tell the old man that he had done this. The old man said to him, "Have you not had a good sight in there?" "Aye," said John. "You have not touched anything or taken anything away with you?" said the old man. "I have not," said John. "Leap on my back," said the old man. John leaped on his back, and they set off and reached the castle of a king that was there. And the old grey man said to him, "Come off my back, John." "Yes, yes," said John. And the old grey man said to him, "Go in and send word to the king, asking him if he wants a clerk." John went in, and the word came that a clerk was wanted under the command of the head clerk. John went out and told this to the old man, who said, "Accept of the office till you get a better." John returned to the house and accepted the offer that he got. He then returned to the old grey man and told him that he had taken service with the king. The old grey man left him there and said to him, "Should any difficulty or hard lot overtake you, think of me, and I will come to you." He then went in and began his work under the command of the head clerk. The pens that they had were not pleasing him, and remembering that he had taken a feather away with him from the brazen castle, he made a pen of it. And when he tried the pen, he could write with it in such a manner as he himself never wrote, and as he never saw anyone writing. When the head clerk saw the writing, he never saw the like of it, and he was terrified that John would get to be over him. One day that John happened to be out, the head clerk came to try his pens, and having found this pen, he could write with it as well as John himself could. The head clerk went and told the king that it was John's pen that was doing the writing, and the king went and tried the pen himself, and he could write with it as well as John and the clerk could. The king sent for John and said to him, "Where did you get the pen that you have yonder?" John said, "I got the pen in the brazen castle on the day which I came here." "I was thinking that," said the king. "You must go and bring the lady of the brazen castle to me here, that I may marry her." "I cannot do that," said John. "You must do it, or else you will hang," said the king. John went to his own room and began to weep, and he said to himself, how valuable would the presence of the old grey man be, and who should in but a moment come to him but the old grey man? "I'll warrant that you touched something in the old grey castle." "Indeed," said John, "I touched nothing except one feather, and I made a pen of it, and that is what has brought matters to this pass." "That is as bad for you as though you had touched a larger thing," said the old grey man. "I bade you not touch anything, and if you had touched nothing, you would not have that to do today. However, come out and leap on my back." John went out and leaped on his back, and they set off, and came in sight of the brazen castle at the seaside. He then gave him a rod and said, "Strike me with the rod, and I shall become a ship, and you shall steer in a straight line to the front of the brazen castle, and cast anchor there, and you shall go ashore with a skiff, and keep looking about ye to try what you will see, and walking backwards and forwards. The lady will put her head out a window in the upper part of the castle, and say to you, 'Whence have you come, sailor?' And you shall say to her that you have just come across from the Indies. She will say to you, 'What cargo have you on board?' And you shall say to her that you have a cargo of silk fashions newly come out, very fine for ladies. She will then say to you, 'Bring in a good bundle of it, and I will buy a dress or two.' You shall say to her, 'I cannot guess what will please you, but as the day is calm and mild, there is nothing better than that you come out yourself.' And she will say to you that she thinks it is best for her." He then went and struck the old man with the rod, and he turned into a ship, and they set off and cast anchor in front of the brazen castle, and John went ashore with the skiff. He reached the brazen castle, and was going round it backwards and forwards, hither and thither, and the lady put her head out at the window above, and said to him, "Whence have you come, sailor?" "I have just come across from the Indies," said he. "What cargo have you on board?" said she. "A cargo of silk," said he, "every kind of new fashion, very suitable for dresses for ladies and great ladies." "I shall be obliged to you," said she, "if you will bring in a good bundle of it, that I may buy a dress or two of it." "I cannot guess," said he, "what kinds will please you. You had better go out with me on board, as the day is calm and mild." "Indeed, I do not know," said she, "but it is best for me to do so." She went out with him, and he brought her down to the cabin, and set before her bundles of silk, and she took so much time looking over them, and thinking what kind she would take away with her, that when she came up on deck, she was a great distance away from the castle. "Ah," said she, "what have you done to me?" "There is no fear for you yet," said he. "Well," said she, "I have now lost my brazen castle, my good home." She put her hand in her pocket, and took out the keys of the castle, and threw them into the sea. "Whatever befalls me," said she, "no other shall enter the castle after me." He steered the ship, and went ashore at the very spot from which he started. He took the lady of the brazen castle ashore in the skiff, and he shook the rod towards the ship, and it came to land and became a horse. He set the lady of the brazen castle on the back of the horse, and they rode home to the palace, and he delivered her to the king. On the morrow he began his work as a clerk. The king told the lady of the brazen castle that he wished to marry her. She said to him, "I will never marry you till you place the brazen castle at the end of this palace." "We shall make John do it," said the king. He sent for John and said to him, "You must place the brazen castle at the end of this palace, or else you will hang." Poor John betook himself to his own room and began to think of the old grey man, and he came. The old grey man said, "What is the matter with you today, John?" "The king," said he, "bids me bring the brazen castle to the end of this palace here, or else I shall hang." "Did I not bid you not touch anything in the castle? If you had not touched anything, you would not have that to do today. Come out and leap on my back." He went away with him till he brought him to the cave where the big giants were. There are many giants in it today. Ask them if they remember the day when they were dying of hunger, and you gave them wine and wheaten bread, and say to them that you hope that they will bring the brazen castle to the end of the king's palace for your sake. He went up, and the cave was full of giants, as the old man had told him. And he said to the chief giant, "Do you remember the day when you were dying here of hunger, and I gave you a bottle of wine and loaves of wheaten bread?" "Indeed, I think that such a thing happened," said the chief giant. "I hope that you will remember it to me today," said John. "What do you want?" said the chief giant. "That you bring the brazen castle to the king's palace for my sake." "Perhaps I will," said the chief giant. John then went down to the old grey man, who said to him, "Have you done as I bade you, John?" "I have." "What did he say to you?" "He said, 'Perhaps I will.'" "That is as good as though he made you more certain," said the old grey man. "Leap on my back, John." They returned all the way to the king's palace, and the old grey man said to him, "Begin your work now, and should you at any time be in straits, think of me." And he left him. When the king rose the next morning, the brazen castle was at the end of his palace. The king then told the lady of the brazen castle that he wished to marry her. And she said, "I will never marry you till I get the bundle of keys that I threw into the sea." The king said, "We will make John get them." He sent for John to come to speak to him, and said to him, "You must get for me the keys of the brazen castle that the lady threw into the sea on the day when you brought her away from the castle, or else you shall hang." John retired to his own room and began to think of the old grey man. And he came and he said, "What does the king want now?" "The keys of the brazen castle that the lady threw into the sea on the day when we took her away from the castle," said John. "Did I not bid you not touch anything that was in the castle? If you had not touched anything, you would not have to do that today. Come out and leap on my back." John then leaped on his back, and they set off and reached the beach where was the fish that he put out into the sea. And the old man said to him, "Go now and call to the king of the fish, and when he comes, say to him, 'Do you remember the day when you were left out on the beach here by the receding tide, and I put you out?' The fish will say to you, 'I think that I do. What do you want?' And you shall say to him that you want the keys of the brazen castle that the lady threw into the sea." John then went out on the sea and called to the king of the fishes, and said to him, "Do you remember the day when you were left here by the receding tide and I put you out?" "I do," said the fish. "What do you want?" "I want the keys of the brazen castle that the lady threw into the sea," said John. The fish went in search of the keys and took a considerable time to find them. John then returned with the keys and went ashore, and the old man said to him, "Have you found the keys?" "I have." "Leap on my back." He leaped on his back and went away with him to the king's palace, and gave the keys to the king, and the king gave them to the lady of the brazen castle. John went out and returned to the old man, who has said, "Attend to your business as usual, and should you at any time be in straits, think of me." When the lady got the keys, she said to the king, "I will never marry till I get 3 bottles of the water of the well of virtues." "I cannot get that for you. We will make John get it." John retired to his room and began to think that it would be well if the old grey man would come. The old grey man came and said, "What's the matter with you today, John?" "A great deal and not a little. The king wants 3 bottles of water of the well of virtues." "Come out and leap on my back. That is not easy to find." John and the old grey man set off and rode on a very great distance. The old grey man said to John, "John, come off my back and get a good lump of stone, and strike me in the root of the ear and kill me. I cannot go farther. And when you kill me, rip up my belly and go into it, and let part of my small intestines out at my side. 5 ravens will come to eat them, and you shall put out your hands softly and catch 2 of them. And to the other 3 you will say, 'Let our brothers out to us.' Say you to them that you will not let them out till they bring you 5 bottles of the water of the well of virtues, and when they come with it, take care that they do not play you a trick. If it be the right water, I shall rise alive on your pouring a quantity of it on me. But if it be not, I shall not stir. And you shall threaten terribly that you will kill the 2 ravens that you have unless they bring the right water to you." John then went and struck the old grey man with the stone in the root of the ear and killed him. He ripped up his belly and went into it. The 5 ravens came to eat the horse's intestines, and he put out his hand and caught 2 of them, and the other ravens called to him to let the brothers out to them. "I will not," said he, "till you bring to me here 5 bottles of the water of the well of virtues." They went away and returned with 5 bottles. "Here," they said, "give up our brothers to us now." "I will not," said he, "till I know that it is the right water that you have." He threw a drop of it on the horse, but the horse did not stir. He then caught the 2 ravens that he had by their heads and began to put them round and said, "I will take their heads off your necks unless you bring the right water to me." They set off for the water and were a long time away before they returned. And they gave him the water, and he threw a quantity of it on the horse, and the horse rose and came alive and said to John, "You have acquitted yourself well, John." John then let the 2 ravens away with the others. The old grey man said, "Leap on my back, John." They then set off and came home all the way to the king's palace. And the old grey man said to John, "Give away 3 bottles and keep 2, and should you be in any strait, think of me." He gave the 3 bottles to the king, and he gave them to the lady. She ordered a great cauldron full of water to be put on the fire to boil, and she went to her room alone and washed herself from head to foot with the water of the 3 bottles. John was looking at her through the keyhole. She sprang into the cauldron and said that she would never marry any man except the one who would stand in the cauldron as long as she would. The king went and sprang into the cauldron with her, and he was burned to death. John thought of the old grey man, and he came, and John told him what the lady did with the 3 bottles, how she and the king sprang into the cauldron, and the king was burned. "Go you," said the old grey man, "and wash yourself with the water of the 2 bottles, which will be as effectual as though you had 3, and go in where she is, and say to her that if she will marry you, you will stand in the cauldron as long as herself." He washed himself and went in where she was, and said to her, "If you marry me, I will leap into the cauldron with you." "I will marry you," she said, and he leaped into the cauldron and put his 2 hands around her and began to kiss her. "You are my man now," said she. They came out of the cauldron, put on their clothes, and married, and he became the king in place of the other. The old man bade him goodbye and said to him, "I have now done what I promised you. I have made a fortunate man of you." Unless they have died since then, the king and the queen are still alive. As the embers of our tale fade, may the echoes of this Scottish fairy tale linger on with you. We hope you found solace in our story and were captivated by the allure of our ancestral homeland. Subscribe to the Sleepy Scotsman and join us on upcoming expeditions into the mystical realms of Scottish heritage. Together, let us explore the tapestry of stories, legends, myths, and poetry, where dreams dance with reality and the indomitable spirit of Scotland resonates.